How's it going? This is the Punisher speaking on the Last Lenca. It's my part 2 video. On the previous video we were talking about the Native Americans, Christopher Columbus and all that. And I just wanted to do a little quick brief summary on this second part. It's gonna be about sterilization and other crazy things that have been happening to the natives and also to minorities, more the Hispanic people and the Native Americans. It's sad because the Hispanic people don't realize what has happened. They think that Spanish is their original language, which is not. It's really not. And at least the natives stayed with their native tongues, and their traditions and their culture. It's sad because in Central America and South America, not a lot of people speak out on this type of things. Only the natives themselves. You won't see another group trying to help. So here, guys, I'm gonna show you the part 2 of this video. And again, leave a comment, tell me something that you want to know, ask me something, whatever. Punisher out.
The fourth one, it simply says prevention of births within the target group. And if you're doing that on the basis of their membership in the group, you're sterilizing an American Indian woman, for example, simply because she's an American Indian woman. It's a genocidal act.
Somebody came to me and said there's some sterilization going on of Indian women. I publicized it. I had hearings on it.
Can you remember what the findings were?
The findings were that there was indeed sterilization going on.
Based on the documents that were secured by virtue of the illegal acts of the American Indian movement, Women of All Nations warned that organization analyzed the documents, and they concluded on the basis of the evidence they had that it was about 42% of the overall female population of childbearing age were prevented from birth. Not only involuntarily, but in a number of cases unwittingly. They were never even informed.
It used to be routine practice to try to sterilize Indian women after they had a very small number of children.
And I mean, I don't even know how to describe how vile that was. Just absolutely incomprehensibly inhuman. And done as a matter of course. Women coming in, for any reason, going out sterilized. And the final one, the fifth one, is the forced transfer of children from the targeted group to the targeting group, and that's the bit about raising them not to know who they are. They will place them in these institutions for the express purpose of destroying their sense of Indian identity, to deny them the possibility of knowing their spiritual traditions.
The kids that were in the boarding schools were beaten if they spoke their tribal languages. They were forced to take English names. The names were written on blackboards, and you went out and picked up your new name is James or Mary or John.
Constructing them to see the world through the lens of the society that despises them and theirs so much that they take a national project to destroy it. Kill the Indian, save the man in every single pupil. That's how the architect of the U.S. system, Army Captain named Richard Henry Pratt, put it. Kill the Indian, save the man in every child.
Some of these kids went 6, 8, 10 years without seeing their parents or their tribal people again, and so what returns is just a semblance of an Indian or a semblance of a white man. It's neither.
I'm just going to sum it up, and you can ask any other questions you want, and I'll give you answers, but it may best be summed up by virtue of the fact that between 1880 and 1920-25, that period, that's an entire generation. And running into a second, when you're dealing with kids, really, in all probability, got 2 generations at issue here. Okay, you've got half of all the kids as a normative figure being channeled into these schools, and half of all the kids that are going into schools are not coming out alive. That's 25% of the population has been eradicated in these so-called educational institutions.
The graveyards speak for themselves, where little children died of heartbreak and loneliness and trying to run away. When the reservations were founded or established on Indian territory, the president handed over the reservation leadership to 4 different denominations and said, okay, this reservation is going to be Presbyterian, this one's going to be Catholic. This wasn't the Indian people, this was the government. Okay, this one's going to be Catholic, this one's going to be whatever.
It wasn't like, here, you know, here's this pamphlet, read it, and, you know, find the light. It wasn't like that. It was like, cut all those people's heads off and then ask these 2 people right here if they want to believe in this religion or not, or end up like these guys over here. And what are they going to take, you know, after seeing, you know, say 100 people killed over here? You know, what are these people going to choose? Are they going to choose that, or are they going to choose a religion?
If you were going to survive in a Catholic mission, you were a neophyte, and then you converted. You know, those were the people that were in charge of distributing food and cattle and clothes. And so there was a good reason to want to convert, or at least to appear to convert.
After a while, I just couldn't handle that. Going to church 3 times a day and praying every day, praying at the table, praying before you get up, praying when you get up. It was... I told that to that nun that one time she came to visit me. She just sat there and listened to me. She said, you know, Madeline, she said, you're not the only one that felt that way. She said, there's a lot of Indian people felt that way.
You were subjugated on the basis of systemic violence on as massive a scale as necessary to accomplish the result. And then they tune you up with the indoctrination and all the rest of that. And you get that through the schools, you get that through the prison system, you get it just through the day-to-day grind of being told no in every aspect of your existence.
We were born in sin, we were always sinning, you know. I didn't know what sin was. I thought that was cruel, you know. I thought they were punishing us by making us go to church and kneeling down. I thought that was punishment.
People get tired of spending their entire life actively struggling in conjunction with all of these burdens that are imposed upon them. It's weariness, it's fatigue, it's colonialism.
I used to go to powwows, you know, I used to dance when I was, you know, younger. And after a while, as I got older, I looked around and I seen like the American flag, and I seen all these veterans and all this kind of crap. And they were all like into America, and I was like, you know, I never understood that. I was about 8, 9 years old, and I was like, wow, you know, this flag that was flowing while all these Indians were getting killed these crosses were up in the air, you know, while these Indians were getting killed. And, you know, you stand here looking at all these Indians and they got that same flag and they're worshiping that same cross.
Result, you see there's a predictable result. And you'll find its counterpart in every colonial context you ever examine. And it's always supposed to be for the colonized's own good. It's for the good of the colony. It's the white man's burden, as Kipling put it, to do this to people. Here, let me rape you for your own good. You'll really enjoy it. You know you want it. It's the same thing. The colonial mentality is a rapist mentality. And all of those polemics that are used to redeem a rapist, it's always the fault of the victim. She flirted, she wore the wrong clothes, she teased, she did this, she did that. The rapist's argument, apologetic, defensive posture, which is hackneyed in the extreme, which is transparent, we see through it. It's exactly correlated to the arguments of colonists, measures to justify colonialism.
Let me tell you just a little something about the American Indian in our land. We have provided millions of acres of land for what are called the preservations, or the reservations, I should say. They, from the beginning, announced that they wanted to maintain their way of life as they had always lived there in the desert and the plains and so forth. And we set up these reservations so they could, and have a Bureau of Indian Affairs to help take care of them. At the same time, we provide education for them, schools on the reservations, and they are free also to leave the reservations and be American citizens among the rest of us, and many do. Some still prefer, however, that early way of life. And we've done everything we can to meet their demands as to how they want to live. Maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we should not have humored them in that wanting to stay in that kind of primitive lifestyle. Maybe we should have said, no, come join us, be citizens, along with the rest of us. As I say, many have been very successful. And I'm very pleased to meet with them, talk with them at any time, and see what their grievances are or what they feel they might be. You'd be surprised. Some of them became very wealthy because some of those reservations were overlaying great pools of oil, and you can get very rich pumping oil. And so I don't know what their complaint might be.
We see it from Appalachia to the Mississippi Delta, to the inner cities of our country, to the Native American communities. If we can't do this now, we will never get around to doing it. So let us give ourselves a gift for the 21st century, an America where no one is left behind and everyone has a chance.
William Julius Wilson, the sociologist who used to be at University of Chicago, did a study and was able to show that there was a cordon of employment discrimination around inner city neighborhoods. Somewhere between half and three-fourths of employers would not hire blacks under any circumstances. Now, you have the same kind of situation near reservations.
I walked clear down to this end, picked up applications, and if I could fill them out right there and talk to somebody right there, I did it. And then when I came back clear on this side of town. Well, nobody ever called. You could just tell they don't want to hire you. They look at you and they think, oh yeah, right, you know. Unless they're really in a dire need right now, they'll hire you. But if they got choices of who they're going to hire, you can easily drive through town and see who's all hired.
They hit this wall of discrimination. They go around, they try all the fast food places, they try to get construction jobs, and they keep coming up empty-handed. And they start to think after a while, well, maybe it's me. Maybe there's something wrong with me. They end up going back to the reservation. Of course, there's no employment there, very little, except for with the government or the tribal government or the schools. And a lot of times get depressed, start drinking.
I was a roofer. And look at where I'm at now. I went to treatment 2 times. Down in Red Cloth, school down there, that bell tower. I was roofing big time. We all have to pray, you know why? That big tidal wave took up, all kinds of thousands now. I hope it comes over here, bring some more beer.
Mr. Secretary, I want to conclude by telling you that I'm very thrilled that you went to Indian country. But I think that we have to get commitments earlier out of administrations to go after these Indian health problems. But I also tell you, the problems surrounding alcohol, gangs, health are truly beyond what we understand.
That's true.
They're going to have to get so bad before we decide to do something that it's almost shameful.
Oh, there's all kinds of things that happen here. You know, there's killings, rapes, sexual abuses, assaults, you know, car accidents, child abuse, neglect, you know, spouse abuse. All these things fall into that category of alcoholism, and it's killing our nation, you know, from within.
The alcohol is so strong, it has a grip on some people where they feel like there's no hope.
All growing up, my father and his brothers and neighbors and everywhere I looked, well, even the people, you know, that ran the businesses and the tribal employees, you know, even though they went to work every day, you know, you'd see them drunk too, partying. And basically, you know, growing up seeing that, that's, you know, what you think life is about.
This jail right here is a 22-bed facility. Last year we booked in, actually 2003, booked in 11,768. I mean, that is a big number for this size of a facility. So, public intoxication is our biggest problem.
At any one time, how many people are in this place?
Wow. We've had them literally just side by side. We get 20 people in here. It's, you know, with that amount of people and they're all intoxicated, anything will happen.
Let's examine Indian gene codes and see if there's some congenital predisposition to alcoholism, this kind of behavior. Let's look at what the defects of Indian cultures might be that leads to these self-destructive behavior patterns. And actually it's the matrix of colonial domination, deculturation, and the sheer brutality visited upon people from a very young age that leads to these results.
It's a cycle of depression that started probably, probably started about 500 years ago, but it especially hit when kids were taken from their families. I think losing wars, being disenfranchised, not being understood by this group of people who came over and occupy this land. At one point, you just have to lay your head down on the table and say, I give.
Yeah, we had, cases where people just drank themselves to death. Young people, which was surprising to me. We had a young guy, he's 25, I think he was, died of cirrhosis. Another girl, mid-20s, just drank themselves to death. And no one wants to really deal with it. You know, they expect the jails and the courts to deal with it, but these are our people. We should reach out to our people. You know, we need commitment.
Join me on my third video, guys. I'm gonna download the third part to this. There's probably gonna be a little bit more, but if anything, just keep tuned. Punisher out.